Hey everybody, my name is Kalle Slaap, watchmaker from the Netherlands, and today overbanking, prellen in Dutch. You can measure the health of a watch, of a mechanical movement in amplitude, and that is the balance wheel going back and forth. And if the oil is a bit thick and old and the springs aren't in right condition, the balance wheel goes back and forth and with not much amplitude in degrees. And if the oil is new and the springs are okay, the balance wheel is moving back and forth in a greater amplitude in degrees. Usually the more the better, but as in everything, too much of a good thing isn't good enough. If you are reaching 345 degrees, your balance wheel will make too much of a turn, and that can cause havoc, overbanking. I'll show you in a minute on the model, and your watch will run fast. I'm going to tell you a bit what it causes, so you know how to resolve it. And if your watch is overbanking, you can hear it without technical aids or anything. Usually a watch is just running and ticking. When it's overbanking, you hear this, like a horse in a gallop. I will show you what is going on the model. I will tell you a bit, because only a few things can cause overbanking, and when you know what the cause can be, then you know, well, just about immediately how to resolve it for yourself. Well, cheers everybody. Now that was important as well. Overbanking. Here we are. This is the model of a Swiss lever escapement. Here is the balance wheel with the double roller, impulse dual going back and forth, and here of course pallet fork, banking pins, overbanking, and the escape wheel, and then the rest of the gear train is behind this. What you need to know, there are two important springs in any mechanical watch. That is the mainspring, that is wound and is really heavy and where all the power is coming from. And the very delicate balance spring. Well, here is the balance going back and forth, so the balance spring is on top of that. Overbanking is very simple. Usually just, this is the balance with the amplitude. You can hear the tick, you can hear the tuck, but with overbanking the amplitude is too much and it's touching the outside of the pallet fork. So this is perfect amplitude, and this is simply too much. So you can hear it even with technical aids. Just what does it cause? There is too much power on the gear train. The winding spring, the mainspring, simply too heavy. Or with an automatic winding system, it can be that there's too much graphite grease in the main barrel, and that causes the spring to give extra friction to the main barrel, so therefore too much pressure on the gear train. Because you probably know this, this is part of the gear train, and I wind it like this. I burned myself. So this is the escapement. When I keep it like this, so there's no power on the pallet fork or the balance. Simply, now there is no power on the mainspring because, well, I'm holding the gear, escape wheel. But when you wind, then look what is happening. There, the teeth will touch the pallet fork, push, 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 and number 2 is going that way. Do you see that with the impulse jewel? And in real time, there it goes, 3, 2, 1, because this teeth is pushing that way, the number 2 is pushing away the impulse jewel, and you get amplitude. Now here is pushing, pushing, pushing. That is pushing that way, so number 1 is pushing that way. Simple. The tick and the tuck. I release it here. 3, 2, 1. And you can see the impulse jewels get a push from the pallet fork, amplitude. So if, and the push, the amplitude and the force only comes from the speed of and the force of the escape wheel pushing against the pallet fork. That's it. So too much force, overbanking. Too much and it ends up there. So the winding spring, the mainspring, is in the main barrel, is the only source of power in the whole movement. There's nothing else. So if there's too much power, overbanking, it is now 99.9999% in the power source, which is the mainspring. There is the tiniest chance that the balance spring, so the other side of the timing on top of the balance wheel, not the mainspring, there is the tiniest possibility that somebody replaced the balance spring, which isn't easy to do, and you can see it immediately. If it's done right, well, you need so much skill, the overbanking would be well, there's a solution there anyway. And if it isn't done right, you can see it's a botched job immediately. But forget about the replaced balance spring, because that doesn't happen too much. To replace a winding spring in a main spring in the main barrel, that is very common with every repair or revision. Yeah, the winding spring, the mainspring, loses power, loses its shape. So yeah, the same with your brake pads in your car. The performance gets less, so a winding spring, a mainspring, is commonly exchanged, replaced. We have had here in the workshop, I think 4 months ago, some problems with some watches that came back, and the client says it runs perfectly, but when I wear it often as an automatic winding system, the watch runs fast. Well, first thing you check is the balance spring, if two windings are sticking. If you're into this, have a look at how a mechanical watch works, and then you see that there's usually the only way that a watch can run fast. But our supplier of mainsprings had a wrong batch. So the spring was a tiny bit thicker, wider, and then too much force. So overbanking. They supplied us with the wrong, and for a whole group of movements, supplied us with the wrong, well, specification, dimensions. So it can happen. The only thing you have to do is change the mainspring. Very short, very short. There is this is the height. You cannot change the height too much, because if it's higher, the main barrel won't fit. As simple as that. That is the thickness. And that is critical. That is where all the power comes from the mainspring. The common notation is height times diameter barrel times thickness. So because the spring is specified with the diameter of the barrel, usually the barrel is about 3/4 full. So the length of the spring isn't noted anymore. Yeah, it used to be in the older packaging, but not anymore, because if you know the diameter of the barrel, it corresponds with the length of the spring. There we go. So if you have a watch and that is overbanking, you hear this, and running fast, the only thing you have to do is reduce the thickness. That is the only way, only thing that can cause overbanking, because that is the source of all the power in your mechanical watch, vintage watch. I do hope it was helpful, and it is a nice topic, because if you clean the watch perfectly, all the pivots are clean, you picked out all the rubies, and it's running perfectly, you are really close over the 310 mark or in degrees of amplitude. So if you have the tiniest larger spring, overbanking can be a real problem, which is fascinating. Real nice to talk about. All of you, again, I hope this was helpful. Hope to see you soon on our YouTube channel Chronoglide, every Tuesday 8:30 Central European Time. We are live with the most lovely stuff that comes here in the workshop, and it is nice to show you. And coming Tuesday, something really special, I promise. All of you, enjoy your weekend. See you. Bye bye.